Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy!
That's me, Tiberius!
And welcome to the Tiberius Show today, and I'm your host, Tiberius Boy! And as always, we are looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to a sports announcer. Do you have any idea what a sports announcer does? Well, I think I do have an idea, but let's find out. Let me introduce our next guest, the one, the only, the amazing Mark Domeier.
Hi, Tiberius. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well. And thank you for being on the show.
You bet.
Okay, so you are listed as a sports announcer. For most of us, I have no idea what that means. Can you explain exactly what that means?
Well, I have a few different parts of my job. The main thing that I do is I announce at live sporting events for our local high school. I'm the guy who announces all the starting lineups, makes special announcements. I announce throughout the game when things happen. That's the main part of my job when I do sports announcing live in a gym or on a football field or a baseball or softball diamond.
Wow. So how did you get started? Like, did you just watch TV and start doing play-by-plays in your bedroom?
Well, no, not quite. It's one of those lucky circumstances where my very first year of teaching, they needed somebody to announce a basketball game, and I might have been the third or fourth person they asked. And I said, sure, I'll do it. I needed a little bit extra money, and I sort of funneled the announcer that I remembered from college when I went to Winona State University and the way he did things, and it sort of took off from there. I had a lot of fun, and I've been doing it for, well, I'll be going into my 28th year of announcing now.
Wow. So do you announce the players when they come out, or do you cover the entire game?
I do it all. I do it from start to finish.
Nice.
I welcome everybody there, do a bunch of announcements. We do starting lineups. And then, for instance, in a basketball game, I'll announce when somebody scores or when somebody has a foul. On a football game, I'll announce at the end of every play what's happened. All kinds of things like that. In baseball and softball, we even do walk-up music for our players here.
Wow. So when did you know that this was a job for you?
Oh, that very first game that I got a chance to do, I had a blast. I had a lot of fun. And I said, hey, anytime you want me to do this. And it sort of built from there. And you can probably hear me at just about every varsity sporting event in New Richland, Minnesota. If there's one going on, it's pretty likely I'll be there. Okay.
So, kind of tell me, how does it work? Do you have to do a lot of research before a game?
Not really. No. I talked to the other coaches because, as we talked about when you were learning how to pronounce my last name, names are important. So I always ask the other coaches. I want to make sure I get people's names correctly. And other than that, I've been around long enough that coaches know me, and I get to know players and stuff like that. And for the basic in the gym or on the field announcing, I don't have to do a lot of research. Now, the other part of my job that's sort of come on since the pandemic is that I also do live play-by-play on streaming that we do, so people that aren't at the game can still watch it. And I'll do some play-by-play throughout there. There I do a little bit more research. I look at how teams have been doing and who they've been playing and other interesting things like that.
Okay. Well, a few months ago, we interviewed one of the first women sportscasters. How is announcing different from sportscasting?
Well, you've got to be paying attention all the time. And the biggest thing I've learned there is figuring out when to not talk. That's the biggest thing. That sometimes you just let what's happening on the court, on the field, take charge, and you fill in the blanks later. Knowing when not to talk is probably the biggest difference there.
Okay, so what are the different types of sports that you can announce?
Well, I was just working on my fall schedule now, where I'll be doing volleyball and football. Come winter time, I do basketball for both boys and girls and wrestling. And then in the spring, I do baseball and softball. I've even done track and field, not quite as much to there, but you name it, and I can probably figure out a way to do it.
Okay. Well, do you get to be on TV and radio or just on the mic?
Luckily, not on TV too much. I have a face made for radio, but the live streaming, you don't see me at all, which, again, that's just fine with me. You just hear my voice, and in the gym, you can see me, of course, but otherwise, put a mic in front of me, and I'll be a happy guy.
Okay. So, what's the best part about being a sports announcer?
The best part is seeing the kids accomplish things on the court, on the field, whatever, and being able to talk to them about it the next day, or even before the game. If I see kids in the hallway, and I'll ask them a little bit about what they're thinking about the game that night. That's part of my research too, is just talking to the kids before the games. But I love seeing them succeed out there. That's so much fun.
Well, now here seems like a great time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
And we are back here talking with Mark Domeier. Mark is a sports announcer and known as the voice of the Panthers. So, Mark, we now know what a sports announcer does, and we are told that you're the voice of the Panthers. Well, can you tell me about these Panthers?
That's the mascot of our high school here. We are the New Richland, Heartland, Ellendale, Geneva Panthers here in southern Minnesota.
Nice. So this is for a high school, right? Are you a teacher there?
Yes, I teach 7th and 8th grade English there.
Oh, did you say English? Well,
I did.
this isn't my best subject. I mean, I can talk a lot, but my reading, well, let's just say I'm better at talking, okay? So how do you motivate kids to be better readers?
That's a great question. The biggest way I find to do that is find what your interests are, and then find a book that's geared to that interest. So you like video games. I would probably go find a book that has to do with a character who really enjoys playing video games, or maybe a book about video games themselves. Say, hey, Tiberius, why don't you try reading this one? And a lot of times when you find something that you really enjoy about a topic you like, you're going to discover reading is not so bad. Maybe I will do more of this.
Yeah. So what's the best part about being an English teacher?
When you see that very thing there where somebody says, I don't like English, I'm not very good at English, and then they find some success. You find that book, they say, wow, that was a great book. I'm so glad you suggested that. I want to read more. Or they write a paper and they say, wow, this is the best paper I've ever done for you. That's really, really awesome when the kids, keep getting better and better at what they do all the time.
Yeah. So, did you start as a teacher and become an announcer, or the other way around?
I started as a teacher, had no idea the announcing bit would come in there. Like I said, my first year, just got asked to do that partway through the year, and I did it, and I've been kind of known for both parts in our area. People know I'm a teacher. They also know that I am the voice of the Panthers.
Nice. So, do you have to travel with the team when it does away games?
No, I generally just stay at home. A lot of times, especially in the winter, one of the basketball teams will be on the road. The other one will be at home. So I do the home games. I also do a little bit of a live stream announcing for Owatonna, a nearby town, when they need me if I happen to have a free night. So that's where I'll travel a little bit. But usually on the road, they think I'm a little bit too biased for my team, and they maybe want their own announcer doing their thing. So.
Okay. So when you're announcing scores, do you announce the other team in a lower monotone voice? Or in a big one like this?
Yeah, I don't go too monotone. There are some rules out there that I'm supposed to be very unbiased. I'm not. I am biased. I get more excited when the home team does something good. But I don't do the old, and for the other team, I don't do anything like that. That's a little disrespectful. That's a professional type of thing, pro sports. But it's high school, and these are kids that are working hard. So you give them their due when they get it.
Yeah. So what is more fun, announcing sports or teaching English?
Well, most days, announcing is more fun. It really is. I mean, I love teaching. I enjoy teaching as much as anything I do in my life, but announcing is fun. And there's not a lot of pressure. And I don't have to correct a bunch of papers and find kids who still don't know how to capitalize the word I.
Like me.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. I still cannot figure out when to do it.
Yeah. Well, always.
Yeah. Well, my dad said that you started your own podcast about sports and reporting. Well, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I did that in 2022. That's last year, right? Yeah. For about 9 months, I got hooked in through a group on Facebook, and they were starting a big radio network and everything and doing some podcasting. And so I did it on Minnesota sports. I had a blast doing it. I had so much fun. I got to interview a lot of really awesome people, just like I'm sure you do. I just got to be so much work, and I have a lot piled up on my plate already. And I finally just had to say, I have to take something off, and this is it. Because as you know, the podcasting isn't just this time that you and I spend talking. There's a lot of other prep work you have to do. It's hours and hours of work to do that. So it was a lot of fun, but I had to let that one go.
Okay. So what got you interested in doing your own podcast?
Well, it's one of those random things where on Facebook, I'm a big Minnesota Twins fan. I love baseball. And in a Twins group I was in, somebody had put that they were looking for people to do a show about the Twins or about Minnesota sports. And I said, well, why not? I mean, at least I can say I tried it, even if I failed miserably. I don't think I failed miserably, but I did learn a lot and got to talk about sports, which is one of my favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm. So how did you come up with the name for your podcast?
Well, it was called Whatever Flips Your Waffle. I'm sure if you look on YouTube, you can still see all my shows. And I based it off. I've also write a weekly column for our local newspaper, the NRHEG Star Eagle. And that's called Whatever Flips Your Waffle. I've been doing that for almost 11 years now. And the name actually comes from a friend of mine in college. She used to say that all the time. And it doesn't make any sense because you don't flip waffles. Yeah. And that's what grabs people's attention. So I get to talk about whatever I want.
Yeah. So does it require a lot of training to be a sports announcer?
You know what? Nobody ever taught me anything. I learned it as I went. Like I say, I kind of modeled it a little bit off of the gentleman who announced when I was in college and did some things that way. But otherwise, I'm self-taught, and I've learned a lot over the years and made some notes and done things differently and kind of settled into this is the way that works really well for me. Other people do things a little bit differently, and that works for them. But the basics of being loud and clear, speaking so that people can understand what you say, those things go across the board. And that I had training just as an English teacher, as a teacher in general, about how to speak properly, that really carried over well into announcing.
Wow. So what is the hardest part about doing this type of job?
Well, the hardest part is probably making sure I get the names right, because I'll make notes on how to pronounce names, and I'll still inevitably it'll be the person whose name is the hardest to pronounce that they'll score the most points or make the most plays, and I'll look down and go, oh, I messed that one up again. That and to me, again, I think it's really important to get people's names right. Yeah. So that's the hard part, is a little bit of pressure there.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Happens to me all the time with the guests.
Yeah.
So what's the craziest thing that has happened while working as the voice of the Panthers?
The craziest thing that's ever happened? Well, at a football game a few years ago, I always announce the team will score a touchdown and they'll bring on the kicker, and he's going to attempt the point after. The kicker from the other team, his last name happened to be Mohr, M-O-H-R. And all I did was say, more on to attempt the point after. And I didn't think about it right away until somebody said, what did you call him? Whoops. I had to adjust the way I said that. That was crazy. From a game standpoint, I did announce a 7 overtime varsity football game one time. 7 overtimes. We were there for a long, long time. And it was a great thing. Our home team won. It was fantastic, but 7 overtimes.
7 overtimes.
Yeah. I was exhausted.
Jeez. How many
Yeah.
plays?
It was a lot. It was, yeah, the full game, and then every overtime, each team starts on the 10-yard line and gets a chance to score. So it was a very long game.
Wow. Okay, so how does doing this work make the world a better place?
Well, I think it adds a little bit of great atmosphere to a game, because sometimes you go to some high schools don't have somebody who announces, or they might just announce the starting lineups. But I'm announcing through the game, this person scored, or here's what happened in this play. Uh, and this is what I hear from people. They enjoy that atmosphere. They like that. And like I said, we've kind of built over the years. We have the live stream going now. I play music at games in between, coming out of timeouts and stuff like that. So what we've done is we've created an exciting place to be. The kids like it. They appreciate that. The fans in the stands like that. The people who are at home and can't be at the game, and they can watch it and they can enjoy all the same things. So I think it just makes these high school sporting events a great experience for everybody who's part of them.
Mm-hmm. So what is the first step every person should do if they want to learn to be an announcer?
I think the same thing as I did when you look back at it is just listen to other announcers. Go to games or, be at events like that and listen to how they do it. And you get ideas of what really works, or you might say, I don't really like the way that they do that. I would do it this way. And when you listen to that, you want to gain your own voice. Not everybody should sound the same. And so developing who you are and what works for you is a really good idea. I mean, I have certain catchphrases that I use that everybody knows at every game, that they're going to hear different things. At a football game, you're going to hear, let's play Power Panther football before the game starts. We have little things like we get a first down and I say, and ladies and gentlemen, that's another Panther. And then I stop and the whole crowd says, first down. That's a cool thing. At the end of the game, everybody knows they're going to hear me say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention, and please. And then everybody joins in again, drive home safely. So those are things that, I use, develop a little bit. That makes me who I am. You might do it a little bit differently, come up with your own little things to say that make you Tiberius.
Yeah. Well, what is the story of that one game that you will never forget?
Well, the 7 overtime game is one I'll never forget. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of basketball games that were won on a buzzer beater. A lot of opportunities like that. I got a chance to do some color commentary at our state tournament when our girls basketball team was there, on a live stream type of situation. That was a great experience to be able to do. But there are just so many over all the years, and so many great kids that I've gotten to watch, see milestones. They scored the 1,000th point in basketball. I saw somebody, they were from the other team, but they set a state record for touchdown passes against our team. That's cool. It wasn't our team, but that's a really cool thing that I got to announce that and be a part of that too. So all those things mixed together, it's hard to just say, well, this one or this one. There's so many, because there's so many great things that kids have accomplished.
Yeah. So, who can you say was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
Well, that's a good question. It sounds a little cliched, but probably the student athletes, that when I started doing it and they said, hey, that's really cool that you're doing that. We really enjoy this. We really like that. That made me want to do it more. I think if I hadn't gotten positive feedback, I don't know whether I keep doing that or not. But that drives that passion. The kids see me, hey, are you going to be at the game tonight? Are you going to do this and that? They really like that. Students really like that when their teachers and everybody shows up to their games and their other events, whether it's a concert or a play or whatever. They love to see us there. And I love to be part of that process for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, what advice would you give to my listeners if they wanted to go up and be a sports announcer?
Well, like I said, I think you start with listening to other ones. And then if you want to, you just, contact your local school, see if they need help with those sorts of things. Around our area, somebody could get a hold of me and I could probably help them develop, their own voice and things like that. And
Yeah.
maybe you even, it sounds kind of weird, but maybe you sit at home and watch a game and pretend to you do it with the sound off and pretend to announce it that way. I mean, I've never done that, but when I was very young and when I was starting out, I would be driving on my way to a game and I would be practicing my intro. I would be rehearsing it and trying to get my voice down. I don't do that anymore because I've been doing it long enough that I could kind of do it in my
Memorize
sleep.
it.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, but just watch, listen, and then contact schools. There are plenty that I'm sure would be looking for people to do something like this.
Yeah. So, what is the best advice that you've ever received, and who gave you that advice?
That very first game that I did, we were a neutral site, so it wasn't our Panthers playing. There were two other teams playing a playoff game. And the best advice I got, and especially because I come from a school where we have 4 different towns combined, Richland, Heartland, Ellendale, Geneva. In the very first game, it was the Waterville, Elysian, Morristown Buccaneers were playing. And the very first time I announced the foul, I said, Waterville foul on whoever it happened to be on. And I had a woman in my ear so quickly. It's Waterville, Elysian, Morristown. It's very important to get all the towns because they're all very important. What I learned right there is just announce Buccaneers foul. Announce the mascot. Rather than try to say these big, long names all the time, just say the mascot. Panther foul on. Panther basketball. That works a lot better.
Yeah. So, what was the very first job that you've ever had?
The first job I had, well, I grew up on a hobby farm, about 9 acres. We had sheep and stuff, and I baled hay and stuff and everything like that. But if you want the first job that wasn't just, working around on farms and walking beans and stuff, is that I worked at a grocery store. I bagged groceries, I stocked shelves, stuff like that.
Nice.
In high school and college, I did those things.
Okay, well, was there anything you learned from that job that helped you to be a better sports announcer?
Actually, there is. When I was stocking shelves and stuff, sometimes, and even when we were, this is long before how computerized we are now, when we were bagging groceries and stuff, and you need a price check, and I'd have to get on a microphone and do a price check. Or I'd be out stocking shelves and somebody would call for one, and I'd get to go on the microphone and back and do that. And kind of realized this is kind of fun. Everybody can hear my voice. And sometimes we just have fun with it. We wouldn't just say, M&Ms are $2.89. I try to put a little oomph into it and try to make it exciting. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe that kind of sparked that a little bit.
Yeah. So, what message do you want to tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
Hey, you know what? Speaking in front of lots of people is really hard. Speaking in front of hundreds, maybe 1,000 people is really hard. And a lot of people are really frightened of doing that. But it's just like I tell my students when I have them give speeches in front of the class. If you can do that and you can communicate, you can do so many different things. And just the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. You don't become as nervous. I'm not nervous when I announce anymore. I'm sure you were very nervous when you started doing your job here. Probably aren't quite as nervous as you used to be anymore because you're comfortable with it. And when you find your voice and you're very comfortable and you get comfortable speaking in front of people and knowing people are watching and listening and judging you, the world's your oyster. It's not a big deal. Who cares? Have fun.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills. And we are back here with sports announcer and English teacher Mark Domeier. Well, let's get into it. So, my dad said that you're also an author. Can you tell me about your books?
Sure. I've written 3 different books, and they're a trilogy, really. They're called Heroics 101, Heroics 201, and Heroics Graduation. And they're about a couple of good friends that go to college. They both happen to be superheroes, but they don't know that the other one is a superhero. At least that's the way that the first one starts. So,
yeah. So what motivated you to write your own books?
Well, I started something with a group of my students the very first year I did this called National Novel Writing Month. It happens every November, and students and adults across the country set writing goals for themselves to write. My goal that first year was to write 50,000 words in November, and I did. My first book is about 51,000 words. I actually did it in about 2 weeks. because we realized, and this is part of my philosophy of teaching writing, just write it. Don't worry about if it's any good until later. Just write it. Because perhaps you're like this when you have to write a paper, you want to get it all correct. You don't want to go back and look at it again. But I tell my students, just write it. We'll go back and worry about if it's any good later. So I still do that every November. I do novel writing with my students. It just so happened that first time I did it, I really liked it. And I started saying, well, why not try to publish? So I self-published through Amazon. You can find my books on Amazon and everything like that. It was so much fun. I enjoy writing. Like I said, I have a weekly column that I write around here. Been doing that for about 11 years. And those 3 books. And I've written a lot of fan fiction. I haven't published those, partly because I can't. Copyright issues, I can't put my Spider-Man or my Batman story out there, or my Star Wars story. I can't do any of that, but they're there. I have fun with it.
So how do you find the time to write when you're doing sports announcing and teaching?
Well, that's why I had to drop my podcast. I wasn't having any time to do anything else. So I find times to write. Like I say, November, we sort of set it aside, and I'm doing it with a group of my students. So we spend time every day in class. That's all we do is write. And so I'm writing along with them because I don't make my students do something that I wouldn't do myself. End of the day, I get home, I can write if I need to, before I have to go announce or anything like that. Whenever I find the time and I need to get something written, I'll find the time and I'll write. It comes kind of easy to me. I get ideas going and I just, like I say, just write, and then I go back and proofread and edit it later.
Okay. Well, if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
10 years and tell myself something. Wow. Probably stretch more before I do. I officiate games too and umpire and stuff like that. And my body is starting to feel it a little bit as I creep closer to the age of 50. And I probably tell myself, stretch more and get your body more acclimated, because it's a lot harder now than it used to be.
Yeah, so what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Well, occasionally, like I said, my column, I kind of write about whatever I want. And I've had a couple of times over the years where I've written things and expressed my opinion about something. And, your opinion is your opinion. And as long as you stand by it, I always say you're just fine as long as it's not something really terrible. But I regret a couple of things that maybe I should have my opinion wasn't really important for the rest of the world to know. And it upset some people. And I kind of, if I could go back, I would probably just say, let's just come up with something different to write about that week. So that's happened a couple of times. And that's the danger when you write or you do things like that and you put things out in the public, is somebody might disagree with you or get upset. And sometimes that's okay. But I did upset some people, and it still hurts a little bit that I did that.
Yeah. So when you're not working, well, what do you do for fun?
Well, you can maybe see behind me, if those people that are watching it on a video stream or something like that, I have 14,000 comic books in my collection. So I love to read. I've got a lot of comic books. I've been collecting since 1979 when my parents got me a subscription to The Amazing Spider-Man. I read a lot. Writing can be a little bit of a hobby. I enjoy spending time with my wife, Michelle, and my kids, Jana and Anton, who Jana will be in her 4th year of college, and Anton will be heading off to college this year. So being able to go see the things that they do, and that, they're both very musically involved, and Anton's in the theater as well, and being able to go see those things is a ton of fun. I love doing that.
Okay, so do you play video games? And if you do, what is your favorite one?
The type of games probably that you play, I haven't played in years and years, where you have the console. Not since probably my daughter took our Wii console off to college. I play Candy Crush a lot. Maybe that doesn't count, but
it counts.
If you go back in the day, I loved all the Mario games. Like, I played Mario Brothers on the original Nintendo. I loved Mario Kart, that kind of stuff. And in college, we played a lot of Tecmo Super Bowl. We loved that football game. We played a lot too on the Super Nintendo.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. So what's your favorite book to read that you haven't written?
That I haven't written? Well, the greatest novel of all time, like I tell my students, is To Kill a Mockingbird. That's the best book ever. I read it about every 5 years. I'll sit down and reread it. And it's such a great book because every time I read it, I think it's going to have a different ending, and it never does. But that's what makes it so good. Is I anticipate something different. I'm hoping for something different. And it doesn't work. But when you're in high school, I hope you get to read To Kill a Mockingbird. It is fantastic.
Okay. Like, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid's show, okay? But that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
The one that I'm not supposed to tell you about? I don't know. It's a kid's show.
It is.
I don't have a ton of embarrassing type of things or anything like that. I always had fun with my buddies in high school and college and everything like that. There's so many great stories from teaching, and my teaching friends and I, that we come up with nicknames for students and for ball players and stuff. In fact, one of my good friends, Dewey Ferber, before every football game, he gives me a word of the game that I have to incorporate in my announcing. I have to use the word in my announcing. And a lot of people didn't know that for a long time. When people come to a football game and suddenly they hear a word like sarsaparilla, they're going to go, what is that guy doing up there? That's my word of the game that I have, and I have to use it every single game. So it's a challenge. It's a lot of fun. Probably the hardest one was Zamboni. I had to use the word Zamboni in a football game, but it happened to be raining and it was muddy. So one of the
football game.
Yeah, he slid across the field, and I said he Zambonied, so I made it into a verb, into an action word. So,
I was gonna say, if it was a hockey game, it would be so easy. But
that would be easy. But yeah, hopefully I never have to use the word defenestrate. That's my favorite word, by the way, in the whole English language.
Wow.
Defenestrate means to throw somebody or something out a window.
I love that word too. Then.
So it's a great word.
Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
I don't know. I stumbled into the announcing bit. It's been such a rewarding thing. I enjoy it so much, and I love being out there. I love being around people. I love talking, and I love watching sports. So it all works really well. And I love being able to mix that with my students and being able to see them, kind of grow up and do some great things as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have a Facebook or website for my listeners to be able to follow you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. You can just find Mark Domeier, and I'm on there. I'm on Twitter at MRD1973. I'm on there as well. That's probably about it for my social media stuff. Like I say, my books you can find on Amazon as well. If anybody's ever interested in that, it's kind of middle grades style. People your age, maybe you'd enjoy it if you like superheroes and stuff. That's me. I'm out there.
Okay. So, what is the one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
The one question. What you didn't ask me is how I think you would do in my classroom, because this coming year you're going into 7th grade. You would be in my class if you were around here.
Oh, well, how well do you think I would do?
Well, I think that public speaking and giving presentations wouldn't be a problem at all. And I guarantee you I would find a book that you would enjoy. I guarantee that.
Okay.
So we would get along just fine.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Absolutely.
See Tiberius Smith Law.com.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
Wait, you are not Chuck.
My dad can help when people get hurt. He loves to help.
If you are ever injured at work or in a car accident, you should call my friend Chuck.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
That website again is cwsmithlaw.com.
Offices, Orlando.
Does it actually have that much W's?
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it's time for Math Corners. Thank you so much, Mark, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we are going to do some more multi-step word problems. My dad is always good at finding new problems for me to solve. Today, we're going to talk about a field trip.
Ooh.
Okay.
Fun.
So, a group of science students went on a field trip. They took 5 vans and 3 buses. There were 6 people in each van and 29 people in each bus. If the Science Center charges $3 for each student, how much does the school have to pay for the field trip? Well, first, this is a real world problem because we do know that students love to go to the Science Center, don't they?
Yes, of course.
So, to solve this issue, you first have to figure out how much each group of students is based on their vehicle. So, 5 vans times 6 students is 30 students total. Well, that was really easy. Next, you have 3 buses times 29 kids, which is 87 students. And that is good, okay? So, that's easy. Now, you have to add the 30 students to the 87 other students in the buses, and then you get 117 students. Now, how much money do they need to have? So you take the 117 kids and times that by 3, and you get, well, 3 times 100 is 300, and 17 times 3 is 51, so the answer is $351.
Wow. Wow.
So, Mark, did you ever get to do field trips for English class?
I try to avoid it because to take that many kids out would be tough, but I have, we took kids to a show of the Diary of Anne Frank because I teach that, and we got to watch a dress rehearsal and did it that way. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
We even took kids one year as a reward to the Mall of America up by the Twin Cities in Minnesota and set them loose running around the biggest mall in North America. We brought them all back. Don't worry. So
Good. At least you got them back.
yeah.
Well, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math in your work?
Well, even as an English teacher, I'm still having to use math when I grade papers and I have to figure out scores and working with my students to figure out what do they need to do to get to a certain percentage if they want to get a particular grade in my class. So even though it's English, there's still a little bit of math involved there too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your help with Math Corners.
Of course.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we are going to talk about integrity. For me, I think integrity is doing what is right even when no one else is looking. Well, the qualities of integrity is honesty, sincerity, truthfulness, and fairness. So, this week, we had a fire alarm at my school. I was sitting in the bathroom, well, doing my business, and the alarms and lights went off. There was all this noise with kids running down the hallways, and I cleaned myself up and found the place empty. So I headed to the correct place to be counted, which was doing what is right even when no one else was looking. But my dad says that if I would have not cleaned up first and instead took off right away, I would not have been in the building by myself in the first place. Well, I'm still confused. So, Mark, did you use integrity at all this week?
Did I use integrity? I did. I mean, I think I do every week. This came up in my classroom at the end of last year. We talked about artificial intelligence, AI, and how students might start to use that. And one of my students said, well, Mr. Domeier, why don't you just use AI to write your column every week? Tell them the topic and have it write it for you. And it'll be done in, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So, well, that wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. I just write my column. I do it all. I do that.
Gotta be truthful.
Students too should do that. And I shouldn't have to point that out. And I shouldn't have to tell people, hey, I didn't use AI to write my column this week. That's not right either.
Yeah, you shouldn't say that. Like, you
No,
don't have
of course
to.
not. No. Just do what I do and do it correctly and be honest about it. So
Yeah. Well, of all of the Heart of a Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
can I go the opposite way and the one I'd like to see more of?
Sure.
Would that be all right? All right. We talk about this a lot as teachers and as people, that are involved in sports and stuff. I wish I could see more leadership. I feel like we don't have enough leaders among our teenagers these days, and I'd love to see more people step up. It's a risk to step out there and be a leader and to try to help other people, guide them to the right choices and everything. But if we can find more leaders, that makes school environments a lot better. Sports is a better experience for everybody. And then that creates people who are going to be leaders someday in our cities and our states and our country as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should always try and be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Mark. How do I pronounce your last name?
Domeier.
Domeier for being on this show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about being a sports announcer and a little bit about being an English teacher.
That's right. It's been a blast, Tiberius. I've loved it.
Mm-hmm. So, do you mind giving your social media and website again?
You can find me on Facebook. Just find Mark Domeier. You can find me on Twitter at MRD1973. You can also check out Amazon and find my books on there.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show. And I would like to thank WWPR 1490 AM, KINT 98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easyway TV, and all the other stations that air my show. Please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Hey, Mark, are you subscribed yet?
You know what? I'm about to be.
Okay. Oh, and be sure to leave a comment, and I will be sure to reply to them all myself. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.